Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is also a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air your real estate voice every Saturday, 11 o'clock, right after Larry Kudlow. And if you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or you can just search Barb on most of the popular podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. Barb, what are we going to be talking about this weekend?
Well, Richard, as always, I'm excited about today's show just because a lot of what we're going to talk about is kind of on the mind of people that are thinking of buying or selling a home. So we'll go into some interesting topics and I'll try to fill in some color with some of my crazy stories to make it less boring. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is, why is my Zillow Zestimate going down? We get those questions a lot. And it's going to be fun to talk about that because Zillow is not a real opinion of value in my view. It's just an average of the homes that are selling around you. Every home is different. Every buyer and seller is different. So we'll go into that. And then this is a question that I answer an awful lot when I'm meeting with clients or sometimes before I meet with clients. What to do and what not to do to get my house ready for sale. Should I do this? Should I do that? Is it worth it? Will it pay for itself? So we'll talk about that. And then this one is a constant battle for me, how to avoid wow, hold on a second. I got to get warmed up. All right. How to avoid contract failures from a home inspection when selling your home. So this is the most common reason that deals fall apart if it's gone under contract. So we'll talk about some of the landmines that you have to plan for and be prepared for when you're selling your home, because right now the buyers are super picky. You would not believe how picky they are. It's gotten worse than HGTV. And then the last thing I love talking about is, of course, negotiations. So it's sad to me, but it's true. A majority of agents are not trained on how to negotiate. So most of them are like, well, if we don't get what we want, we're walking. That's their strategy. Or I'm going to sue. And that's just not negotiating. So we're going to talk about why they're not trained and some techniques that you can use to be successful when you're in the midst of negotiations. Richard?
Now, Barb, no one seems to know for sure where the interest rates are going to be going. Some people are seeing their home values drop on sites like Zillow and Zestimate. So why is this happening, Barb?
Well, real estate is very local, and then it's also hyper local when it comes to just the house by itself. So you could have a home that just sold for this amount that's similar to yours, but yours may not be selling for that price right now. That's what we're running up against currently with the market. And there's a lot of reasons for it. One of them is interest rates, of course. Interest rates are back above 7.0%, and they've been kind of staying kind of close to where they are. So that's the bad news. That's for conventional. If you're getting a government loan, you might get lucky and maybe get close to about 6.5%. But those loans typically are anywhere from 90 to 100% financing. So buyers purchase homes on payments, right? And buyers are trying to get the best deal for their money. And Zillow is just information basically for home sellers to, it's probably a way that they get people to raise their hands and talk to them or talk to the agents that they sell leads to in order to basically get some activity going on their website. That's how they became very quickly a multi-billion-dollar company, is they had the best online mousetrap. So that is where the buyers are looking. And a lot of people, buyers and sellers, believe that Zillow is the gold standard for the home value. And it's just not true. In fact, back in 2021, during the boom, Zillow was buying homes. I remember going on listing appointments where the seller had already presented their home to sell it to Zillow. And they would say, well, Zillow offered me this much with whatever percent fee. And I looked at them because I knew what the market was doing. And I said, you should take that because I knew that they were paying more than market value. And they did. They paid more than market value for probably 6 months to a year. They ended up losing $1 billion. I can't imagine how they stay in business when they're doing that, but they did. And they quit buying homes because it wasn't a profit center for them. And their goal was to flip it. They would buy it, they'd turn around, put it back on the market, maybe do a little fix up and try to resell it for a profit. And this is when the prices were climbing and buyers are doing multiple offers on homes and all that. But the problem is that there is a limit to what that number is. And they exceeded that limit trying to get these homes, and it backfired. There were a couple of what they call iBuyers or tech companies that did that. So you can't really rely on them as far as what your home is worth. There's a lot of factors that go into what your home is actually worth. And let me just show you the stats right now going on in the Pikes Peak region, although this is probably pretty consistent in all the counties around here. The total number of homes that are under contract for June are pretty much the same as the number of homes that we had under contract a year ago. However, what has changed is the number of available homes has gone up between 31 and 33%. So buyers have more homes to choose from, yet because the rates are high, there's a smaller buyer pool that actually can afford these homes. So you have to be the most attractive home on the market to make the buyers fall all over themselves to get your house. That is the best case scenario. And unfortunately, right now, it's very difficult to go by similar sales even. Normally, that is the gold standard. That is what appraisers go by to substantiate the value. But the market is not reacting to that at this moment. And I think the reason is the number of available homes on the market right now. It's a big surge right at the moment. And some of these tech sites like Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, they all put an opinion of what your home is worth on there. I think Realtor has 3 different opinions. They could go up and down, but it doesn't mean that's what your house is worth. It's what a buyer is willing to pay. And then, a lot of people are buying homes. I would say a majority of them in the US are getting some kind of mortgage, right? So the home has to be affordable, but it also has to be the best available home for them on the market at that time. And so how do you know it's the best available home? You can tell by the immediate market reaction. So when we put a house on the market, we know probably within a day or two if it's priced right, because boom, the phone starts ringing. Ring, ring, ring. How come I can't get in? We kind of hold them back for a while, and we introduce the home to the market a few days after it's been out there on the interweb in order to create demand. And we can tell by the phone calls that, yeah, this is going to be a good one. Hang on just a second. My nose is running, and I bet these HD cameras can pick it up.
Oh, I doubt that.
Well,
but it's got to be uncomfortable.
It's just one of those days.
I have a lot of those days. I'm like, they end up being one of these weeks or something like that.
Put the wrong shoes on.
We still love you, Barb.
All right. I don't know how much time I spent, maybe 30 seconds. So anyway, we are seeing right now that homes that had similar sales are not matching what's going on in the market right now. So that means you have to price your home absolutely very, very realistically, like on the low side of realistically versus optimistically, just to get a buyer to come up and take a look at it. And, this is inflation. even though the home values have gone up since probably 2016, on average about 38 to 40%, okay? With the rates going up like they did at the end of 2022, it took out a lot of the buyer population because they just can't afford the payment. And unfortunately, the prices have not dropped, but I think it could be coming just based on what I'm seeing. Some homes are flying off the shelf because they priced it very aggressively. And in that case, all the good buyers, pile in and make their best offer, and we end up getting full market value. But some homes, if they're really pushing the price envelope, if there's any little thing wrong with them, the buyers turn their nose and just go find some other property. And what we're also seeing in terms of the average price, which is the blue line I'm showing right now, or the median or middle price, is kind of a flattening of the prices. Now, some of this price increase that we're seeing is seasonal. So we will typically see the prices start marching up in the springtime. But what we're seeing right now is a flattening of the prices, which is an indication that there's more competition. You can't look at homes that sold in the spring because a buyer may not pay for that right now. And I do think the political environment absolutely has an impact on that. I don't know, you can tell me, Richard, but there certainly is a lot of uncertainty going on with regard to the presidential race and politics, talking about unseating the sitting president. So for some people, because they don't have optimism, they may not actually make a large investment like a home. I have this saying called a confused mind does nothing. So, but if you are thinking of making a move and you need to make a move, give us a call because we help people in any kind of market. And what we do is we sit down, we go over with you what the market's doing right now, give you a really good idea what your home will sell for. We'll show you all of the similar sales and also show you your competition so you can make a good decision about getting top price when you sell your home. We even have up to 700 high match buyers for your home, as well as we have a bunch of cash buyers. So give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, host of the program and the proprietor of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach Barb and her team at 719-301-3900. And we're talking about the impact of rising interest rates on the housing market right now. So, Barb, should buyers wait until prices start to come down?
I'd say no, because it's not happening yet. We're just not seeing the prices come down. They're higher now than they were a year ago. So I think what I'm seeing a lot of buyers do right now that are actually making offers is they're saving a lot of money. They're coming in with huge down payments. Even first-time home buyers are coming in with 90, 100,000 down just to make that payment more affordable, which is wonderful. I think if you are sitting on the sidelines, that is the strategy. Make sure your credit is stellar, save as much as you can, and when the right house hits, be ready. You can buy a home with as little as 3% down. There's even 100% financing where the county gifts you your down payment and you kind of work with the seller to try and get your closing costs paid. All of those are still out there, but it's all about affordability. That is the problem. And your marketing when you sell a home, it has to be top notch because we know that buyers eliminate homes based on the pictures first, and then the house has to impress them as well. So you want to make sure you get what I call all 3 P's or 4 P's right when you sell your home: preparation, pricing, presentation, and absolutely picking the right agent. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900. We have over 27,940 buyers in waiting just on our little tiny website. Typically, we can find hundreds of buyers that would be a match for your home. So call us or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the home 321. You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program, and she is with Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we're going to be talking about what to do and what not to do to get your house ready for a sale. Stay tuned for that.
I folded in politics because I think it's valid right now.
Oh, you know what? It absolutely is. And yeah, I just like common sense. So if I was selling, or even if I was buying, I don't know what's going to happen this summer. I don't know what's going to happen between now and the election. I don't know what's going to happen from the election to the swearing in.
Right.
And I wouldn't, nothing would surprise me. If it turned out that it was 2020 all over again, wouldn't be surprised at all. People are, and you're military, but people are saying, well, they might go ahead and kick off a war because you don't change presidents in the middle of a war.
That
Okay, that could
bad.
be. And then would China go ahead and try to move on Taiwan
Right.
while they have Joe Biden? I mean, it's very unsettled,
It's kind of scary, actually.
very much
And,
so.
but when we get our guy back in the White House, um, I really feel like there's going to be a lot of optimism, and I feel like the prices are going to go up.
Amen.
You know?
Absolutely. I
So,
think,
but right
I,
now it's just a little mixed bag.
and you know what? I think even people who don't like him, or maybe they're liberals, Democrats, whatever, I think they're smart enough to know that there will be a lot more confidence in the United States internationally, right here at home. People are going to feel like, my home's not going to go down in value because I have an extra 3,000 people here illegally. I think it can be really, really good.
Yeah, I'm very careful about talking politics on the show.
Yep, I agree.
I sent out one mailer about the referral rewards, and it was about Donald Trump's birthday.
Right.
And it was something like, he doesn't need the present, but you could give a present to these charities, and if you refer, we will give more. And somebody emailed me, I will never ever work with you because you
Oh
mentioned
my
Donald
God.
Trump. And I'm like, okay, bye-bye, whatever. I wasn't talking about supporting Donald Trump. I was talking about giving to worthy causes, it's weird.
Well, I mean, Trump derangement is absolutely the case. I've never seen people so brainwashed in their lives. So here, I don't feel comfortable saying proprietor. What should I call you in terms of your home sold guaranteed? Oh,
Um, I'm the broker.
broker. There we are. Okay, I was going
Yeah.
to say there was something I used to say. Broker.
Broker, you could say owner, broker.
I can put both of them together, right? Owner,
Yeah,
broker.
broker owner is good.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
It's more of a inside baseball term,
Yeah.
but I think people like hearing that.
I had written down goddess of real estate, but Tiffany
I'm,
Lockwood
I'm
called it.
so I'm so hated, Richard. It's extraordinary.
Well, that makes me happy then, because you
Yeah.
know what? That could mean that you're just a bitch, or it could mean that you're really, really good at what you do, and you are absolutely a pit bull when it comes to representing your people. And I think people want that.
Well, I mean, I was having fun. I have a client that he's a regular listener to the show, and he got an offer on we're selling two of his properties right now. And this one agent was just a Beyonce. She said, I don't even remember what it was, but she said something that was very offensive. And she was competing to me, it was personally offensive to me. And she was competing with another buyer, you know. And so my seller, I told him the whole story, and he's like, no, I don't want to work with her because even though her offer could have been a little bit higher, slightly, he's like, it's not worth it. It's going to be a pain in the butt all the way through. And then he affectionately nicknamed her Snarky.
Well, I do think, I mean, given everything else being even remotely equal, people want to work with people they like and that they respect too.
And it was pretty close to equal, but he didn't want to deal with the brain damage.
Yeah.
So,
I got a script, I got a clock. I got number two.
ready?
I'm ready to go.
Okay,
Barb.
ready.
All right, count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. She's the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this program, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you. Did I do something wrong?
It just faded for a second.
Oh, okay.
The audio
Let's start
faded.
from the
I don't
beginning.
know why.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of the program, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate. And it does it with Barb Schlinker, Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. So, Barb, I noticed that on the beginning of page 1, there's not a paragraph up there like there usually is. So I
Oh,
just
sorry.
as blank. What do you want me to do? Talk just generally about strategy or?
Yeah, just say, give us an idea on what home sellers should do to get their house ready for sale.
All right, 3, 2, 1. So, Barb, give us a little bit of an idea as to what a home seller ought to be doing to get their home ready for sale.
Well, Richard, you don't live in the home the same way you sell a home. Very rarely does that happen. Typically, you have to make it look pretty. You have to make it look like it's a model home. A lot of sellers want to sell the home as is, which you can do that, but there is a separate lower price for that. That would be like selling to a cash investor. But if you're planning to go on the open market, unless you really, really price it lower, well below market value. Let me give you an example. I had a house down in Fountain that I represent the Secretary of Veterans Affairs for some of their homes that unfortunately they've taken back in foreclosure. I've sold about 200 of their homes in the last 10 years. And we had one, normally what they do is they price it very realistically, and typically it sells within 30 days. But the thing about this home is it just wasn't habitable. Typically, they don't leave enough room for a fix and flip investor in terms of asking price to sales price. But in this case, it looked as though they had some kind of flooding issue because the hardwood was curled a bit. There was it was a bi-level, the upper level, the drywall was cut about 3 feet up, and down in the basement, there was no drywall. It was down to the studs. Everything was pulled out of the bathroom. And that's how we got the property. So obviously something had happened. Maybe they had a freeze break in that home and they just let it go to foreclosure. So when we resell it, the VA doesn't typically fix up homes. So what they did was price it very realistically. And they rely on my opinion of value, as well as they bring in a separate appraiser, and then they reconcile that and figure out their pricing strategy. So in this case, that home, if it was fixed up after repair value, probably would be somewhere around 400,000. But they priced it at 265. So the moment I put it on the market, which was nighttime, by the way, oh my God, showings, dog pile of buyers, agents calling, oh my God, oh my God. They get so excited. It's kind of funny. And it was a home that obviously you could not live in. There was no plumbing. They did leave the appliances behind, but all the kitchen cabinets were gone. But it was a perfect fix and flip property. There was enough room left in equity for somebody to come in, make the repairs, turn around and resell it and make a small profit. So we ended up getting, I think, 30 offers on that home, and it sold for about 10%, a little more than 10% above asking price. But it still left enough room for somebody to go in and actually make the repairs and do well. So that's the way you deal with an as-is property. If you have just minor cosmetic things like the carpet is old and tired or the paint is old and tired. I have one right now where the son smoked in the unfinished fourth level and they put in new carpet, and for some reason now the home's vacant. Everybody going in can smell the smoke. So we're having to find ways to resolve that. I have an ozone machine, which we have to cut off showings when we're using that. And we're going to vacuum and clean and see if that will fix it. But, that home has a cosmetic issue where the buyers are rejecting it based on the cigarette smell. It's the same thing if you had old tired carpet. Even a home that needs updating, sometimes the buyers will turn their nose up and go, well, it needs too much updating, even though we priced it slightly below market. That is how picky the buyers are right now. So if you do want full market value, it is very prudent to prepare the home for sale. I'm not talking full on remodel. Most of the time, that's not necessary. It really depends on the price range of the home, what your budget is to make improvements, and how you're positioning against the competition. And there are 4 P's that you have to get right. Number one, preparation for your pricing strategy. Now, some people go as is. I just sold a home down by Peterson Air Force Base that was a completely as is strategy. That one we got 10 offers. That one we priced 265. It was worth just under 4. It sold for 3. Okay, not bad. We left room. It ended up being an owner occupant buyer that bought it that has the skills to make repairs. Pricing is absolutely critical. How the home is promoted is absolutely critical. If it doesn't look good, the buyers are going to eliminate it based on their passing it by in less than a minute on their cell phones. So all these things come into play, and you just have to pick the right strategy. And you don't want to make a mistake when you pick a real estate agent. A lot of people will pick an agent not by interviewing several. They'll just call the one that sold them the home. They like them. Okay, fine. Without really judging whether or not this person's going to do the best for you when handling your largest asset. And now, Richard, did you know that the typical turnover rate of real estate agents has gone up from 80 to 87% of the agents get out of the business within 5 years. Did you know that?
Boy, I had no idea. I mean, I know a lot of people, it's easy to get your license and you get out there and you think that you're going to have a lot of success, but it's tough. People don't have the knowledge you have. They don't have the background. They don't have the assets. Honestly, they're not you, and that creates a problem.
Well, and I'm not the only agent. There's a lot of good agents out there. I'm just saying that looking at the stats, that there's almost a 90% turnover of agents. Most of these brokerage firms, the average number of sales an agent will do in a year is only 4, and more than half of them don't sell any. Okay, so that's terrible, right? And I think part of the problem is the industry doesn't train the agents on, there is no job description, if you can believe that. I mean, I came from a service background. I was in the Navy, and then I worked in that career field as an air traffic controller, and I also worked in aviation. All of those jobs had procedures, checklists, what you did, what you said, and training. I've never had a job until I got into real estate where you basically take a test, get your license, go hang it with a broker, and they look at you and say, go sell, figure it out. They don't teach you how to do the job. They don't teach you how to help people prepare their home for sale. They don't teach you how to negotiate. They don't teach you how to market to get business. It's insane. And that's why we're seeing lawsuits and a lot of people leaving the business because they just don't know how to do it. So a lot of people don't want to waste time interviewing agents. They're like, oh, she's nice. She could probably do a good job. Okay, fine. But, how do you decide? And so I think that's a really critical decision. And we actually can help you with that. We have some free reports on our website. By the way, my name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb has the buyers team. And on our website, barbhasthebuyers.com, if you go up to free reports, there's a whole bunch of reports that we offer there for free on how to help you either buy or sell a home. And the key one that we're talking about is a free agent selection guide. Now, these reports actually come with not just one, but several different ways to help you decide who's the best person to get you ready to sell one of your largest assets. And if you're not a homeowner, you should be, because people that are homeowners over time have a lot more net worth than people that do not. So it is one of most people's largest assets, and it's important to invest in something, especially real estate. Okay, when you're getting ready to go on the market, here's one thing you should do is absolutely clean everything. Go crazy clean, pick up the rugs, clear everything off the counter, make sure the room appears larger. I see some homes that actually have a whole bunch of stuff, all their furniture. And you get used to, it's just natural for people to fill their rooms with clutter, right? And for them, it's okay. They live with it. But when it comes down to a picture, If there's too much in the room, the buyers can't get past it. You can't get them in the door if there's too much clutter because they can't see the house. Odors is another deal killer. I just mentioned that one with cigarette smoke where the kid smoked down in the unfinished area of this floor level. And I don't know why, but all the feedback is the smoke smell is overwhelming. I'm like, oh my God. And what's weird is nobody on my team can smell it, but if the house has been closed up when they first walk in the door, they pick up that odor. Make sure all your trash is out. Windows is kind of a last thing that you would do, but if you can't see through them, definitely clean them. If they have what they call broken seals, that looks like deferred maintenance. Depersonalize. So it's okay to have a few pictures of family. It's just not right to have a whole, I love me wall in your house when you're selling because the buyers are getting distracted by all that. You want just one nice, appropriately sized image per wall. And then if you have a view wall, that is your view. You don't need a bunch of images there. So we're talking about what to do and what not to do to get your house ready for sale. I'm Barb Schlinker. I'm the host of this show, your real estate voice, and the broker owner of your home sold guaranteed realty. And when we come back, we're going to give you some really quick tips on how to get your home ready for sale. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program, and you can listen to replays of this show anytime on all of the major podcasts, platforms, plus Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900. Now, Barb, we're talking about the top 15 tips to sell your home for top dollar. What are the rest of those tips?
Well, one of them that's kind of important is let the light in. So a lot of people have heavy drapes, built-in blinds are okay. You want to, when you're taking pictures, you want to open up the blinds. If you've got heavy drapes, replace them with just some very neutral sheers. I tell people that are remodeling, just if they're taking the curtains down to paint or something, leave them down because they just don't appear good. If you go into models, you'll notice a lot of times they don't have a whole lot for window coverings. Make sure the lights are on for showing. The bedding, you don't want any of these heavy Baroque fabrics with, too much design on it. You want just light and airy and neutral. If you have it in the budget to put a light colored bedding on the beds. Make sure you remove excess furniture and clutter. And consider staging. So we include staging as part of our fee. We have 3 different phases of staging. Some are bring in furniture, some are digitally bring in furniture, some are actually working with your stuff and reorganizing what you have to make it look light and airy and attractive. And in most cases, the sellers are going to net anywhere from 3,000 to 15,000 more on a properly staged home. And if you look at pictures of houses online, you'll see that not every agent does this. And then some of the other things you want to make sure of before you set your price, make sure you get with an experienced realtor and talk about it. And it's at the end of the day, it's the seller's decision. But if you don't price the home right, that is a part of marketing. Buyers are just going to pass it by with with their phone really, really quickly. And, hire the agent that has some buyers. What's going on right now, in about a month, we're going to see that it's going to be very interesting when the whole real estate industry shakes up by not offering commission online. And all of a sudden, these agents that are showing are going to have a written agreement about how they're going to get paid before they show a house. Now, that is not the case right now. We have this thing called Pop-Tart agents, where a buyer raises their hand thinking they're reaching out to the listing agent. They have no idea that this agent doesn't know anything about the house and they just want to see it, right? So they meet this agent that doesn't know anything about the house. They pop out of the Pop-Tart or the toaster and show up to show the house. And they don't know anything about the house. And in fact, unfortunately, a lot of times these agents actually try to discourage the buyer away from it. We catch that on cameras all the time. And make sure you hire an agent that knows how to negotiate and knows how to help you get ready for sale. And that's all of what we do. We have systems plus. If you don't want to deal with the whole dance of opening your home up to the market and letting the buyers judge your home, we offer 100% certainty for all of our sellers. We show up with offers. That way, you can sell your home to a cash buyer and not have to deal with it at all. So give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker on Your Real Estate Voice. It's the program over the weekends. And if you're thinking of selling your home and you want to get the most amount of money when you sell, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. A short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about how to avoid contract failures from the home inspection when you're selling your home. You don't want to miss that. There you go.
Stop. So how am I doing? Got time. Okay. I took that pneumonia shot on Friday. I went to get a physical. And I took it 3 years ago and they said it was a one-time shot. And they're like, oh, you want to take the pneumonia shot? I'm like, I already did that. Oh, well, this is a booster. And I'm like,
I don't know about you, but you know what? My entire life, I never had problems with shots or vaccines or whatever. I'm like, okay, give me that little cube with sugar on it for polio. I mean, whatever. I was just fine with it. But I have to say, I have changed my opinion after COVID. And every time somebody
"Ew."
said, well, you need this or you need a booster for this and that, in the back of my, and normally I go ahead and do everything, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, do I really? Do I really?
Yeah,
And
they're still trying to push me into the shingles one, which I'm
me too. So because I have a friend from high school. She keeps telling me over and over and over again. She's got an aunt who has shingles. Terry Bradshaw said it's more painful than any injury he had in football, and I believe him. But I don't know what. So why are you skeptical about it?
well, is everybody says it's kind of a rough shot, like it'll take you out for a weekend, and they do it in 2 shots, like the COVID shot.
I
I
didn't. Nobody
just
told me that. That's part of my problem. Nobody tells me stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's you talk to people that have had it. So I had the second pneumonia shot, and the first day, Friday, my arm is like I couldn't even hardly move it. It hurt pretty bad. And then Saturday, I wasn't feeling well all day. Sunday, I was all right. And yesterday, I woke up um just crabby. You know, my husband's like, go back to bed. What's wrong?
What the hell's
And
wrong with you, Barb?
And I didn't realize it until like an hour later. I'm like, oh, I think I have a fever. That's what's going on. I'm not a very happy sick person. So, but I'm better today. But I'm just saying, you got to plan on 3 or 4 days of dealing with this. That's the hard part for me. So
I don't know. Have you had it, DJ? Nope. All right.
what they're trying to do is immunize you on the pneumonia front. They said it was 50 different pneumonia viruses, one-time shot. And okay, this sold me. But then they're selling me another one 3 years later. And I'm like, wait. I remember you said it was a one-time shot. Oh, it's a booster. We got new viruses out there. Whatever. I don't know that it makes any difference. I got COVID, even though I took the COVID shot. I got it twice. So I'm not sure about the theory.
I know. I
I've had pneumonia, so I mean,
Yeah. Hmm. That's scary because it goes into the lungs. Really scary.
well, I had a lung collapse because of it. So
well,
Oh, God. Well, you're probably a good source. And I'm glad I went through the minor pain. How scary was that? How'd you know it collapsed?
I actually stood up from a soundboard. I just finished recording a show and fell over. Next thing I know, I wake up in the hospital.
Wow. So you passed out from it?
I thought I had a cold.
Yeah. Huh. Oh. Well, good thing you had people around you at the time, you know?
Yeah. I guess they poured me into a wheelchair that was out in the lobby and got me out to a vehicle and took me to the hospital.
It's probably the fastest way to get there, I would think. Wow, scary. What did they do? Did they have to do surgery or anything? I don't know what they do.
Yeah, I had all kinds of fluid in my right lung. I only have 3/4 capacity in that lung still to this day. And I've never been the same since. So
Wow, that's scary.
it is.
Well, we're glad
You
you're here.
push through. I can still run 5K, so
Really?
yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing how adaptive the body is, you know? How did you know had 3/4 capacity?
They've told me especially right after, they like to test your abilities, and lots of lung capacity type tests, breathing while you're running on a treadmill, basically.
It's a miserable test. I like
Yep.
it. All right. Well, I'm ready for segment 3.
I'm ready to go. I got a clock. I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. Now, this is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or real estate. It does it with the host of the program, Barb Schlinker, the owner and broker owner, with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb, many home sellers fear the inspection. Many people think that most buyers want to purchase their home as is. So, what are some of the red flags that home sellers need to prepare for when they're selling their home?
Well, I think the fear is very real. I mean, there are times when I think, wow, this house is perfect. There's probably nothing wrong with it. And they'll come up with something that's extraordinary. And the problem in the state of Colorado is the person that's judging your home is an unlicensed inspector. They're not qualified to do much. I mean, they got an online certification, if that makes you feel any better. And they don't really know the systems sometimes. They make a lot of mistakes, and they're very pushy and aggressive, in my view. I was just discussing an inspection with the seller yesterday, and he built this new, beautiful custom home that has a very unique, special heat system that actually requires proprietary software to program it and all kinds of stuff like that. And so he had me put in the counter proposal that the inspector's not touching that. You could turn the thermostat up or down, and that's it. And another thing that they do, this is pretty common when there's a well property, and I see them do it on regular inspections anyway. The inspectors will go in the house, they'll turn every single faucet in the house on, inside and out, and run it the entire 2 to 4 hours they're doing an inspection. Now, who lives like that? Richard, I mean, how would you feel about that?
I don't know a single person who lives like that. And I think, I don't know your job, but it seems to me that you should be realistic, present the best image that's accurate to people, whether they're buying or selling.
Yeah, so he's like, you're not doing that on my well, because you could run the well tank dry and cavitate the pump and suck up sand. That has happened to me before too. So that's why I had to create my new inspection policy, which is a written document about good and bad behavior on inspectors and what I won't allow them to do on my listings. I even had to create a video about it because I can't get agents to read very much. So, and I share it with them once they go under contract with my listing. These are the boundaries that you get to play in, because the inspectors don't think there are any boundaries. I've had agents say, well, can't you just give out the combination to my inspector? I trust him. He's been around for years. Let him inspect the home for 3 hours and, just send me the report. And I'm like, no, you're going to have to be there. And his response to me was, well, that's just a waste of my time. And I'm like, no, wait, I know I've said this before, but let me get this straight. You're going to make $20,000. You were there at the open house for 1 hour. You wrote a 1 hour contract, probably took you less time than that. and you're going to do a walkthrough and closing 3 hours. So you're going to make $20,000 working 3 hours because you don't want to be bothered attending the 3 hour inspection. And then he denied saying it. And I'm like, dude, you put it in an email. Here it is. You know. Anyway, it's craziness. Agents would probably be really happy if they write a contract, never show up again, and just send me the check, right? That's what I go through all the time. Yet they wreak havoc when it comes to inspections. And the buyer just wants the house to be functional. The contract says the home is sold as is, where is, with all its faults. But that doesn't mean they're not going to do an inspection. And for sure, they're all going to ask for stuff. Now, some of them will try to make you feel better, especially if they're competing with another buyer. And they'll put in their contract, we're only going to ask for anything that involves health, safety, plumbing, electrical, sewer, which is pretty much all of it. It's just really funny. But there's a lot of things that come under scrutiny on an inspection. And right now the inventory is up. So buyers are being a lot pickier than they were before. And because there is no license to be an inspector, anybody could come and inspect your home. I have had landscapers inspect my listing. I've had the daddy of the buyer inspect my listing. Those didn't go well. And I've even had one house that was older and needed some, it was a nice home, but it was a much older home. It wasn't perfectly level. It had a lot of years of wear and tear on it. That home went through 4 buyers and 4 different inspections until we got it sold. And what was interesting is every single inspection report and objection was different with each and every buyer. So a seller doesn't have to fix anything, okay? But the high ticket things that you should definitely look at before you go on the market are roofs. So a roof is something that, because we have a lot of hail storms around here, I would say 1 out of 3 of my listings has to get some kind of work done on the roof. Most often it means roof replacement if the roof shingles have hail damage. And you got to watch your deductible. So that'd be the first thing I'd check is how much is my deductible if I have to replace my roof? I've seen it as high as, $10,000. What about the furnace? If they're not really good at maintaining the furnace, it could be that the furnace has issues. You don't know. The old electrical panels, but probably the other big ticket item that we run into all the time are dealing with sewer lines and septics. So a sewer has to do with being in like city sewer or any kind of municipal sewer system. Septic has to do usually with properties on acreage where it's got a system that drains out the septic lines. There are requirements by the county. Most counties around Colorado will require that the septic system be inspected, and it has to pass their inspection because what they're trying to do is protect the groundwater from being contaminated, which I understand that. But the problem is the pace of the county's reaction to these inspections has gotten really slow more recently. In fact, I've got one closing next week where I first met with the sellers in March. We are closing the middle of July, and just last week, they finished replacing the leach field. And the delays were not the contractor putting in the new leach field that had to be replaced. It was from getting the engineering report and especially getting the permit. All those things take months and months. So you really want to check out these systems in advance. And what I hear about sewer lines from the sellers all the time, I'll ask them, have you ever checked your sewer line? And the answer is no. It hasn't backed up. We haven't had any problem with it. So therefore, they don't worry about it. Well, it could be fractured. And here's the problem. These inspectors come in and they've got their little cameras where that they run down the sewer clean out, hopefully. But if there is no sewer clean out, I've had these inspectors without permission, even when we told them not to do it, pull a toilet and run the sewer line that way. And then they don't properly reseat it or they don't properly seal it. I've had all kinds of problems. So I have to lean forward on these inspections for sure because it's kind of the Wild West out there. Plumbing, oh, here's one of my favorite ones recently. We had a big cat fight over the inspector's gadget. So one of their gadgets is a infrared scanner. Now that sounds really cool, right? It looks really cool on camera too. It's got these different blue and red colors. And they claim that if they run the infrared scanner over the top of drywall and they see different colors, it means that there's moisture back there. Well, that may not be true, right? And so all of a sudden they get the buyer believing there's all kinds of plumbing leaks going on behind the wall. And it's just false. So I get frustrated at what some of these inspectors use to justify their worth. I get that it's a good idea to have a home inspection prior to purchasing a home, but there has to be some kind of grain of common sense that goes into it. Like I just sold a house where the sewer line had been replaced the year before, but the dummy inspector ran the scope down the old line and said it had failed. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that goes on in my world. So, and then of course, the agent and the buyer believe everything the inspector says, like it must be gospel. And like, oh, well, there's an experienced inspector. I'm like, I'm sorry, no offense to inspectors out there, but the state does not license them. There is no qualification to do it. We don't know what we're getting. They are not professionals in their field. So you really have to bring in professionals to deal with it. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. We're talking about how to avoid contract failures with regard to inspections. And next up, we're going to talk about the best solution to know that you're going to pass your inspection. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900. We have thousands of buyers on our website. Typically, we can find 700 buyers that are a high match for your home. Plus, we have cash buyers. We show up with cash offers. That way you can make a really good decision about what is the best strategy for you when you sell your house. So call 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program. And if you are interested in selling your home and want to call Barb, the number is 719-301-3900. And we're talking, Barb, about how to avoid those red flags on home inspections for sellers. Barb, what are some of the other home inspection issues that often come up?
Well, a lot of times we'll see the decks get hit with different things. You know, wood is a tough product in this climate. It will kind of rot and corrode over time. And a lot of people don't check it. Sometimes it's visible, sometimes it's not, especially the joist underneath. So it's a good thing to check out ahead of going on the market just to see if you have any repair bids that you have to get taken care of. The reason why I suggest you do this in advance is that if you wait until you're under the gun, you're under contract, you have limited time to get contractors in there to give bids. You can't negotiate as much, and it may be difficult to find a contractor to do the work. So it's really important to just check these things. Fractured concrete typically can be solved. I wouldn't worry too much about it unless there's a trip hazard. As far as wells, so some of these dummy inspectors don't know what they're doing. I had them suck the well dry, run the faucets for hours and hours, and then tell the buyer the well was no good, which was ridiculous. Or if they're getting a VA loan or a government loan, the VA in particular asks for a bacteria test or a metals test, and those take time. So you can't wait to the last minute. It's on the buyer to do their own inspections. The other issues I have is that a lot of times the buyers will invite their friends and family, or they bring in contractors to give them bids during the inspection. It becomes a ridiculous gaggle of people. I had one of my sellers actually caught the buyer during the inspection having a pizza party at their house. Now, they had never sold a house before, right? And all of a sudden I get this panicky text from the seller going, what in the heck is going on? Are they squatting in my house? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they sent me a screenshot of the Ring doorbell, which has the pizza lady showing up with not one pizza. We're talking 4 pizzas and a bag of wings. So I understand why they asked that question. And I called the agent and I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Oh, we're having our inspection." I'm like, "Why is her pizza getting delivered?" "Oh, well, they were hungry." I'm like, "Who was hungry?" "Oh, the buyers." I'm like, "Really? They can't go somewhere and eat and come back? Give me a break." So that's the kind of stuff I have to deal with all the time. So our solution is we offer a certified pre-owned home program where we get a pre-inspection. We deal up front with the red flags. It really takes the stress down when you're selling a home, and you know in advance if you really have any problems or not. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program, and if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about why most agents don't know how to negotiate, plus Barb's hot new listings. Stay tuned for that. Because they don't get taught how to do that. Let's see, run to the men's room real quick.
Cash offers too. My seller over there.
Okay.
And see what she likes. So.
Okay.
Right. See you later.
See ya. Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay. I know I've done that segment before, but hopefully it's not boring.
It's never exactly the same way. And you brought up different points in a different order too, so
You have a good memory, DJ.
sometimes too good.
Hey, Barb.
I'm here. I'm just waiting around.
You got a good smile on your face. Okay, let me get a new clock here. And all right, I'll count us down in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. This is the weekly radio show that informs and it educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the host of the program and the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Barb, I know from my experience as a Barb, I know from my experience as a trial lawyer that there are 3, 2, 1. Barb, I know from my experience as a trial lawyer that there's almost no training on how to negotiate, not in law school, and I had to learn from colleagues or others just by doing it. So are agents trained to negotiate the sale for home buyers and for home sellers? Any training in that regard?
I don't think so. I think they all just kind of copy each other. And there's not a whole lot of training. They just make assumptions or they just try. They try to get stuff. And it's not just with the initial offer, it's with the inspection. We were just talking about it with one of my clients yesterday that I had an agent that multiple times threatened to sue me and the seller to get her buyer what she thought her buyer wanted. And during the walkthrough, the seller was so upset about it that they wouldn't let her back in the house. But they let the buyer in for the final walkthrough. And it was pretty obvious that the buyer had no idea that this agent was doing that. And it was enough to make the seller go, you know, if I had a way out of this, I would go get another buyer, because they're just threatening to sue is not negotiating. I actually had to tell a broker that recently over that deal, because he tried to defend his little agent, and she had no idea what she was talking about. But anyway, I'm just saying, they don't have any idea. They are basically trained when you first get your license that, oh, if you sign on to be what they call a fiduciary to your client, that means that you're supposed to get stuff, right? And it may not be what the client wants. And I think that's where they really make a mistake. I think if that buyer had known that their agent was on the brink of them losing that house that they really wanted because of her threats, they probably would have fired her. I would have fired her. They're just a young couple that are trying to buy a house, you know, but that's the kind of stuff that goes on. And so right now the market is more balanced. There is definitely some more negotiating going on. I mean, the negotiating that took place when the market was booming was how much more over asking price can you pay to compete with these cash buyers that are offering over asking price. That was the dilemma back then for buyers. But now, because there's probably 31 to 33% more available homes on the market now than there was even a year ago, and the rates are high, that means fewer buyers can afford the payments. The prices haven't dropped, they've gone up. So that means that maybe the buyers could negotiate some, and we do see it. We do see them come in offering a little bit less in price, or asking the seller to pay for the loan closing costs. But that only works if you don't have competition. If you do have competition, then all bets are off and you have to make your best offer. So it also means that the buyers have more choices. They have more homes to pivot to. And so most of them are negotiating for some concessions. What I mean by concessions is they're asking the seller to pay 5, 10, 15. I've seen as high as 31,000 of the buyer's loan closing cost. That didn't go through, by the way, but it was, thank you for asking, but no, the seller didn't do that. So they're asking for that because it's a cash problem. Basically, they have to pay their normal loan closing costs, which are going to be about 1.5%. Then you tap onto that they're paying extra amount called discount points to buy down the interest rates. So they'll tack on a lot of money just to make those payments more affordable. So with all negotiations, I believe buyers and sellers really need a strategy. So in the case of the sellers, it starts with pricing. Where are you going to position that home up against the competition? The seller decides where to price a home. Now, there are some agents that walk in the door, they don't have any preparation, no presentation. They'll go, your house is worth this. And some sellers go, okay, fine, where do I sign? I wish it were that easy. It's not for me. But I give them some good information. That's what I do, so they can make a really well-informed decision about where to price the home so that they can get the most money and try to set them up for success out of the gate. So I just did that with the home in Briargate, where we knew we were priced a good 5% below our asking price. We had a great turnout at the open house. We ended up getting multiple offers. We played mom against dad, and it sold for over asking price, just like we expected. Now, if it's priced too high, that won't work. You won't get a bidding war if you're overpriced. You have to be priced to be the best available home on the market. So when it comes down to negotiating, the problem is we have 87% turnover of agents every 5 years. 95% of the agents make less than $100,000 a year. And they just don't sell enough homes to really know how to negotiate and how to position it for a win-win for the buyer. And sometimes it's just little pieces of information. So what happens is, the agents separate the buyer and seller from each other. Everything has to be in writing. You can't talk to each other, and they don't give any information. And even our state has said, oh, don't send love letters, don't send any information about the buyer because, that you could discriminate or something. But there are some things that will help it along. Like, as an example, I just put one of my listings under contract, and they made multiple offers on the same property, trying to beat the seller down on price. They finally wore him down to a point where we reached agreement, and the agent waited until after we'd kind of reached agreement to tell me this buyer was a school teacher and he'd saved all this money to put down to buy a home. And he goes, I wish I'd have known that up front, because I want to help school teachers, just like first responders and military. He probably would have been a lot more positive about the negotiations had he known that information. So some things can actually help you in negotiations by, it's emotional, right? Like, oh, they're going to start a family, or they are a first responder, or they're a veteran, or they love the house. I think that's critical information, whether or not they like the house. I asked an agent that one time. I said, this is kind of weird. Does your buyer like the house or love the house? And she goes, it was a VA assumption, really screaming great deal on interest rate. She goes, no, he likes the deal. And I'm like, we're going to be under contract with you for months, and you're not sharing the love here. It was kind of a problem. And then there's some agents that do what they don't know anything else. They do what they call the takeaway strategy. So this just happened about a week ago, where we're under contract. We've had to wait a long time to get a repair done with the septic because it took a long time to get the permit, even though the sellers started way in advance. It's not like they dilly-dallied around, because they did not. But it took a long time to get the soils test, and then you have to get the engineer's report, then you have to send it to the county, get a permit. It's a long process if you have to do a major repair on the septic. That's why I said in the last segment, you really need a lot of lead time for this. And so the interest rate lock for the buyer was expiring. So the lender sends out an email and says, hey, the interest rate lock is expiring. In order to extend the interest rate lock, the buyer's going to have to pay probably $3,000 or $4,000. So without asking any questions, the buyer's agent sends an email and says, if you don't give us $3,500 more, we're terminating, we're walking away. And the seller's like, okay, bye-bye, see ya. And his reason was the sellers didn't work fast enough to get the septic thing repaired, which was required by the buyer's lender. Then the next day, I get an email from the lender going, now, I talked to the buyer last night. I think everybody should calm down, as if we're not calm. And the buyer really wants the house. Let's see how we can work it out. So I got on the phone with her. I said, wait a minute. I watched the interest rates. The interest rates have come down since you started. Why in the heck are you extending a lock on an interest rate when the rates have come down? They'll get a better rate if they just lock a different rate right now. And she didn't have an answer for me. And I found out today from my title closer was, oh yeah, those lenders make more money if you extend the interest rate lock at a higher rate. And I'm like, that's just despicable. I mean, basically, the lender got the buyer's agent to almost blow up the deal just so the lender could make more money. It just really makes me mad when people do stuff like that. So, I see a lot of crazy stuff go on in the industry, and they don't know how to negotiate. I think had the lender called and talked to me about it first, maybe we could have worked it out. But it is going forward. I'm just saying that I think agents are not trained, and they think the only solution is, well, my leverage is I could walk away. And yeah, that's leverage, and it would be sad if they walked away. But at the end of the day, he's told me since day one, the buyer really, 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 really wants the house. So she wasn't going to walk away. It was just a strategy and it backfired and made everybody really, really mad. It just doesn't work. So, or I see agents go into houses and they try to position themselves as the experts and they tell the buyer, oh, it's not worth that much. You should lowball it. I'm like, well, how do you know the buyer doesn't love the house? And how do you know the buyer isn't up against competition? Now, you just told them it wasn't worth that much. They come in with a low offer. They don't get the house. Whose fault is that? It's dummy agent. So I see this all the time. You have to understand the goals of your client and meet those goals no matter what they are. I actually had an agent say to me, this is when I was selling a house, that we had the contract fell apart just because they ignored the inspection objection that we sent. We didn't withdraw it. The buyer wasn't going to withdraw it, but they just blew it off. So the next day she calls me, she goes, hey, we're out of contract. The deal's dead. Call me back. I called her back. And I said, how come you didn't ask? Oh, they don't do repairs. I'm like, did you ask the seller for a repair? She goes, no, they don't. They might do a financial credit. And I'm like, well, okay, why didn't you ask them? And she didn't like my line of questioning. So finally she just goes, well, the deal is dead. Why don't you tell your buyer to go find another house? And I'm like, oh, what? Did your seller tell you to say that? Because I guarantee you there's a whole bunch of sellers that probably wouldn't want their agent telling them to go find another house if they have a good contract. So we got it worked out. We got a concession and we closed. But that is the craziness that goes on. That is not negotiating this whole takeaway strategy. Anyway, so we're trained on that. We know what to do. You want to make sure you ask the agent, how much training do you have in negotiations before you actually, hire the agent. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And the bottom line of this whole thing is basically communication is key. If they get along, if they're talking to each other, most of the time you can work through these problems. And that's what we do with our clients. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. She's the host of the program. And if you are thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900. Now, Barb, we're talking about negotiating a sale. Well, you know what?
Just go on the hot new listings.
Okay. Hang on a second. It's here. Oh, okay. 3, 2, 1. This is Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty's Barb Schlinker on Your Real Estate Voice. She is the voice. So, Barb, tell us about your hot new listings.
Hey, got a great home out on Powers Road on 35 acres with a barn in the mid threes. Fabulous rancher in Briargate and Fairfax in the low fours. A beautiful home down in Fountain in the mid fours with a finished basement. Gorgeous home. Fabulous new listing. We're going to hold open right now on Bearcat at $449.99. Missing a 9 there. $449,999. We also have a really awesome home we're holding open from 1 to 2 today. It's on 5 acres. It's a beautiful home, great views right outside the Safeway there in Peyton. And they have a big fenced pasture in the front, a detached 2-car garage, and they have these really cool goats that you have to say hi to or their heart will be broken. They have a great home on Brentford Drive over in the northwest part of town in the mid fours. Couple of homes out in Peyton, one on Gull in the low 7s. Multi-generational home with solar on 5 acres, zoned for horses. Another great one on a Cowie in the mid 6s on 5 acres, a great hobby farm. And then a beautiful home in the mid 9s on Chalet with a fabulous detached barn that's an RV garage, as well as a spectacular home up in Crystal Park on Eagle Mountain. And we have lots more on our website, many beautiful pieces of land. If you want to just give us a call or go to barbhasthebuyers.com and find out all about those, barbhasthebuyers.com, or call us at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. It airs every Saturday. The new time is 11 o'clock, right after Larry Kudlow. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. And remember, you can see replays of the show on Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Has the Buyers, or you can listen to the entire podcast on all of the popular podcast platforms, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, many, many others. Thank you for listening. And to reach out, again, give Barb a call at 719-301-3900. Have a great week. Thank you for listening. Barb, you have a great weekend.
Thank you. Have a great weekend as well.